Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlynn Childress, and I am a life and parenting coach. I'm also an adoptive mother, and I recently shared my whole backstory about my journey with infertility and becoming an adoptive mom a couple of weeks ago. So if you haven't listened to that podcast episode, I encourage you to go back just so you can kind of understand a little bit about where I'm coming from as an adoptive parent and why this guest is so important to me. Because today I am talking with Jeanette Yoffe, who was our family's therapist and who really I look at as someone who saved my family's life and who taught me how to become the parent I am today and really introduced me to an entirely new framework of parenting and relating to my kids and understanding that my children were struggling with emotional regulation, and I needed to give them those tools and those skills to manage their big feelings in healthy ways. Jeanette is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's an adoptee, and she focuses on kids who have experienced trauma, attachment disruption, been in the foster care system, or were adopted. And I met her when Lincoln was 4, almost 5. And I really think she was like an angel or a miracle in my life and came right at the right time when I was so desperate to figure out how to stop being a rageful mom, how to show up as the mom I wanted to be without using pain or shame or threats or manipulation or any of those things in my parenting. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. It is long because we not only talk about how we met and our backstory, but also Jeanette wrote a book that is 160 different interventions or therapeutic exercises that anybody can do with kids to help kids process their big feelings. The book is called The Traumatized and At-Risk Youth Toolbox. I swear by this book. There are so many really important and useful and practical and fun exercises that anybody can do with their kids. So we teach you in this episode a bunch of these exercises. We talk about the stress bag. We talk about the shame witch. We talk about body up moves, which is ways for kids to ground themselves. We do so many different tools and techniques. And so I want you to hang in, listen to us, get to, reconnect with each other, hear a little bit about Jeanette's story, and then we dive into the book. So you can get it on Amazon. I think it's around $30. I promise you it is worth every penny. Again, it's called The Traumatized and At-Risk Youth Toolbox by Jeanette Yoffe. I think of Jeanette as my Darlynn. Sometimes people who work with me, they are just so grateful that they have me in their life and they say, oh, you saved my family, and without you, I don't know where we would be. And I appreciate those compliments, but I also understand what they mean because that's how I feel about Jeanette. She really did impact my family. We did a lot of therapy with her. Both boys saw her individually and as a family. Kevin was in these sessions. I was in these sessions. And I really attribute a lot of my work to Jeanette. And so it's just a true delight to have her on the podcast, introduce her to all of you, and also so you can get to know me just a little bit more. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and we're going to jump right in. Hi.
How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to see you.
You too.
Hi.
My goodness, it has been some time.
I know. Welcome to the Become a Calm Mama podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. We have so much to talk about.
We do. I'm so happy to introduce you to all of my audience and to catch up and to share all the techniques you've developed.
Okay.
I was telling Kevin, I was like, I'm really excited. I said, oh, I'm going to interview Jeanette today. And he goes, oh. And when I tell everyone why you matter so much to us, they'll understand. But he was like, oh, that's exciting. And then I said, yeah, I said, I'm nervous.
Me
He said,
too.
You're
That
nervous.
is so weird. I'm nervous too. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why am I nervous?
Well,
Because we
you
have a
don't know
person-
my audience yet.
Okay, I don't know your audience.
No, and they're going to love you. So you're nervous. You're like, I don't know. Am I going to do a good job?
That's true. That's true.
You
Yeah.
already did a good job.
Oh, thank you. And I think about your boys too a lot because they've informed some of these interventions.
Yeah.
Your boys have inspired some of these interventions.
I can
Just
only
want
imagine. Yes.
Oh yes. I mean, I really thought about all the kids I worked with and what worked. What worked.
Well, let me introduce you to the audience and tell a little bit about how we met, and you can chime in. I have these two adopted boys from Russia, and on the podcast, I just like last episode shared about my story. I hadn't really kind of laid out my infertility and adoption story in one narrative. It's not like been a secret, but I hadn't really kind of told everybody. I shared in that episode what was happening to me and like what it meant to have kids who were born in Russian orphanages. And I didn't know about trauma. I didn't know about attachment. Like I didn't know anything. And I was using traditional parenting methods and they were not working, obviously. Then I met you at a parenting workshop and you said, I work with kids 5 and up at that time. And Lincoln was like 4 3/4 or something like that. And afterwards, I came up to you and I was so nervous because I'm not good at asking for help. And I just came and I said, can you help me? I was like so scared. And I was like, he's not 5 yet, but can you help us? I just felt like my heart was like, you are a child therapist. You work with kids from foster and adopt and attachment disruption. And I just was like, I need this woman in my life. And yeah, you said, yes, call me. No problem.
I love kids. I just love kids in general.
You do.
Any kid.
Any
But yeah,
kids.
you were so kind and sweet. I said, of course,
Yeah.
because I really, like I'm just so passionate. Of course, I want to help the next generation of children relieve the mental health challenges that I just, were just stuck in my bones and my soul. And I didn't have a therapist that I needed as a child. So I've really prided myself on being that therapist that I needed as a child and for the kids today that need us to be trauma informed, attachment informed, grief and loss informed, the layers of trauma informed.
Yeah. Yes. And I really do attribute everything in our life to you to just, yes, to teaching me so much. So we did play-based attachment therapy together. Your primary focus is on kids from foster care system or foster adopt. And I learned so much. I was in those sessions with you and I was so desperate to parent well and to not fuck up my kid and not be a rageful mom. And yeah, I
And
just
you
can.
did a great job. You did, because I know I'm a parent myself and I've been in family therapy I'm a therapist. Like every family has challenges and it's taking the shame out of that. It's about growing and having a growth mindset. Even parents with biological children, they're their own person. And you need to learn how to be attuned to them and read their nonverbal cues and be curious and understand what is going on because you're not going to know everything, even biological parents.
No.
So it's healthy to go to therapy and,
Yeah,
and just hear another point of view and so that you can be and have that relationship that you want with your child.
for
That's
sure.
intimate. They feel comfortable coming to you. They're not afraid. They feel safe, seen, heard, and you're able to soothe them because you've learned how to soothe yourself because you know that's part of parenting a child with a trauma history. You have to work harder. Kids pick up on that real quick. You're not okay. They're not going to be okay.
This podcast, it is all about really learning how to self regulate in order to show up as the connected, compassionate parents that we want to be. It's just this idea that you taught me early on and that I teach on this podcast every week is that feelings drive behavior. And when our kids don't know what to do with their big feelings, they come out through behavior. And if you have a kid who has any sort of a trauma or attachment disruption, those feelings are going to be more intense and they're going to need more support to help them. In a traditional parenting model, you are only focused on the outside behavior. How do we change this behavior? How do we get our kids to listen? And in this model, it's more about like what's going on inside, soothing and healing that and giving some room for those feelings to be processed and expressed and pushed through and the nervous system be regulated and then come back online and show up in your best self. And I think all parents who are wanting to not do it traditionally feel really unequipped. Whatever, bio kid, adopt a kid, foster kid, right? It's like,
It's because it's how our brains are wired. We are wired for the pleasure principle. We want to feel good all the time. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. So I will tell parents it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, the discomfort, and being the master of that. When things are getting intense, and one of my phrases is, what's hysterical? Really big behavior. What's hysterical is historical. And it's coming up for a reason. It needs our attention. The leaning into oh, what's happening for you right now? And steering clear of the phrase, what's wrong with you?
yeah.
No, because that implies there's something wrong with you. And then children will become more critical and self-judgmental, and they will hide their motives from you because now they feel that you're criticizing their inner world and they may have done something wrong. And because kids do things wrong all the time, but they need us to be patient, not assuming negative motives. Something I want to teach is the PACE model.
Well, before you even do it, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about your story, just how you came to this work, because we're not focused on foster care children in this episode,
Right.
but it is your heart. And the book that you wrote is called The Traumatized and At Risk Youth Toolbox. And it is for therapists and professionals working with children who have had trauma. What I love about the book is that there's so many amazing tools, but your heart is in with those foster kids. So tell us why.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, I didn't get what I needed as a child. And so that really has informed my work with children today. And the book is for any child who's been traumatized, any type of trauma, whether it's abuse, neglect, attachment, separation, poverty, homeless, incarceration, witnessing death. So it really is a gamut of all of these different types of adverse childhood experiences that a child goes through. And so for me, when I started, well, I went into therapy when I was 13 years old.
Well,
And
that feels lucky, actually.
yeah, I was lucky that my parents could afford therapy. Right.
And thought to do it.
I went into therapy for a very big reason. I had suicidal ideation because so not only was I adopted and raised in foster care for 6.5 years and had three homes. My first home was my birth family for the first 15 months of my life. My mother had mental illness. It was deemed unsafe for me to stay with her. She was at a crisis point in her life. There was some neglect. Then I went into foster care, 6.5 years. Then I was placed in another home to be adopted at the age of 7.5. So those frequent moves had a great impact on me and my nervous system and my ability to trust and feel secure in any relationship with any parent. Even when I was adopted, I kept asking my mother, when are you going to give me away? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
all that I knew. I mean, I just thought, oh, this is how it works. I just keep going from one family to another and they end up giving me away again. And even my father told me when they brought me to the courthouse to be adopted, it was like 8. I would not leave the car. I held on to the car for dear life. I didn't know what adoption was. No one explained it to me. That's a big concept for a child. So my father remembers me just holding on. And so a big part of my work is we need to explain things to kids. We're constantly projecting adult characteristics on children. We need to help them understand what's happening for them, inform them. I needed somebody to tell me, we're going to this big building. It's going to be called a courthouse. So they understand the beginning, middle, and end of the experience. You will be going home with your family.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to another family. When I was 13, so we had two siblings. I had two siblings and still have two siblings who were adopted. And then we fostered another child. And she had visits with her birth mother. And this really really started questioning, wait a second, where's my birth mother and why is she not coming back for me? Wow, I must really be unlovable. I must really be deficient in some way. And I
Yeah.
would tell myself, and because kids aren't going to talk to you about this unless they feel comfortable. So,
Or someone asks.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just because they're not talking about it does not mean they're not actively thinking about it. And you see, I'm emotional. There's still parts of me that still feels such compassion for my pain. I had a
Yeah.
lot of pain. And so she was reunified with her birth mother.
Oh, so you watched that happen. Yeah.
I was 12 and a half. I then really started questioning my life, my existence. I had depression. I had a lot of anxiety, and I didn't know what to do with all this stuff. Because again, no one was, and this was the 80s. People weren't understanding of trauma really. Oh, she'll get over it.
They don't remember,
Right.
things
Babies
like
don't
that.
remember. I was only 15 months old. Yes,
Right.
babies' bodies remember
Hmm. Hmm.
the the feeling of separation. And so when that happened, I really got down on myself and my self-esteem got worse. I felt terrible. I had a lot of shame. And so I went into therapy. I wrote a suicide note and
Mm.
to my best friend, and I said, tonight I'm going to do it. And I actually had codeine, which was a medication. And I'm telling you, even doctors make mistakes. The doctor said to me, if you take too many of these, you could die.
Oh,
Like,
mm-hmm.
oh, thanks
Hmm.
for making that prominent
I'm
because
so glad I have a plan now. Thanks.
thank
Yeah.
you. So then I was like, oh, codeine will help you
Hmm.
die. And so I said I was going to take the whole bottle. She told her mother. Her
Thank
mother
God.
told my mother, thank God. And the psychiatrist at the time actually was angry with me. I remember him, why would you do this? You have such a good life. I mean, again, here's a psychiatrist who was not informed. He made me feel worse about myself that I would
Mhm.
even do this to other people, not curious about why I'm acting out in this way, in such a
Yeah.
big way, because I need attention. That's
Hmm.
why it's
Hmm.
hysterical. Hello.
Yeah.
Um, don't shame me and blame me for this behavior. Of course you feel this way. Of course you want this part of you. And yeah, so going into therapy really changed my life and helped me really make sense of what happened to me and have compassion. That's the biggest piece for me. Once I started having compassion for what I'd been through, I could start feeling a sense of relief. And
Yeah.
that's what mental health is. And somebody heard me and I could cry and cry because my adoptive mom, I would cry a lot. And that was my behavior. And she would tell me, stop feeling sorry for yourself. She got the
Mm.
feeling right.
Yeah.
And this is where I tell parents when you have the feeling right, go, oh, wait, what am I feeling when my child's having a feeling? Oh, she's feeling sorry for myself. Let me name it to tame it.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if you're feeling sorry for yourself. And what I really needed my mom to say to me, I'm so sorry, honey. You're feeling so sorry for yourself. You have a lot to feel sorry for.
Yes.
I
Just
would have
validating is so valuable. Just saying what we say a lot, that makes sense. That's our
thought,
favorite phrase. That makes sense. Of course. Even if I was thinking these things, I would feel the way you're feeling.
yeah,
You can validate even if the circumstance doesn't justify it, you can validate that the thought that they have about their circumstance is causing that feeling, and then that's also valid then. So it's like we don't have to just, oh, well, you're not entitled because you're so grateful, you should have a good life. Or we think to ourselves, they should not be feeling this way. There's no reason.
right,
You had a reason, and no, that wasn't being validated. And
right,
sometimes we don't even have a reason. We just
right,
feel the way we feel because we're thinking the way we're thinking, which is your thought was an error of misunderstanding loss. Like how come you weren't with your birth mother?
right. And she
It,
gets to be with her birth.
yeah, and it wasn't because you're naughty or bad or something's wrong with you. It was circumstantial, and the way the system works. There's all these reasons that you don't have information. So you make this belief, and that causes all this
Right.
pain.
And I couldn't turn off the faucet of that
Mm-hmm.
grief and loss. It
No.
just kept pouring out. And the more I didn't understand it and the more my mom judged it,
Yeah.
I would work really hard because we don't want to disappoint our parents. We do not. Kids are doing the best they can, and that's being an attachment informed parent. Your kid, even if it's not, you know, desirable behavior, right? It's uncomfortable behavior, right? It's saying, okay, this is what's happening. Let me dive in a little bit. It's not going to turn it like the thermostat. You're not going to turn the thermostat up. You're actually going to turn the thermostat down when you just lean in a little bit and be curious and listen. And because kids just need a lot of listening.
I do
And
too. I always say they don't have a best friend. They don't have a husband. They don't have a wife. They don't have a partner. They don't have. I have all those people, and I still have all these feelings, but they're little. They don't have. They don't have that in their life. You're that. If it's a privilege to be that for them, actually. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm a therapist, and I still. My son was in the car one day, and he was having some really big feelings, and I went, okay, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm just going to sit in the discomfort. Like I tell all my families, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And I was really uncomfortable. I didn't have the words. I just said, I'm here for you. I hear you. I get it. This is really hard. And I'm very much on, we're going to get through this so that he doesn't feel othered, alone. It's not about you. This is about us. And I'm here with you. I'm your mother. I'm going to do the best that I can. We're going to figure this out together. And this is really, really hard. And that's enough. That's therapeutic in and of itself. And then he was like, okay, bye, mom. Like, okay.
Yeah, we often think that we need to have some kind of plan for the feelings. And one of the questions that I ask myself a lot is what does one do with sadness? It's this question that it's like a giant question that I ask kind of frequently. It's so hard to have a big emotion and then not to know what to do about it and how to process it or feel it and wait for it to pass is pretty much the answer because the feelings are clouds and they're like the weather and it comes and goes and you can just wait. And, in Michigan, they say that if you don't like the weather, wait an hour because it changes really frequently.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like a feeling like you don't have to bypass it. You can sit in it. And especially if it's witnessed and seen, then the nervous system, the body, the brain kind of shifts on its own. Yeah. So sometimes just sitting, being present, being that witness.
Right, because grief is nonlinear and it will come out at random times. And it could be just a little tinge of something. It could even be a commercial that they just saw that reminds them of their loss. And like I talk a lot about genetic mirroring. If they don't have that genetic mirroring, it reminds them of their loss. Like I would go to my friend's house and see their parents and go, she looks just like her mom. Who do
Yeah.
I look like?
Hmm.
I don't have that mirroring. And that just going to my friend's house and seeing that triggered my loss. And I would have anxiety because I would then start thinking about that. And
Yep.
then I'd have to turn it off and push it down and repress it, which actually, when we repress stress, it compounds itself. And that's what creates anxiety.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
compressing internalized anger becomes suicidal ideation. So
Mm.
we want to have conversations with kids. We want to externalize it. We want to bring it out. I go, tell me what's going on right now. You're having a lot of big feelings.
Yeah.
And just sit and wait.
And you're a genius at externalizing. I think that's like this book is 160 techniques.
That's
And
right.
some they're for therapeutic environments for sure. But really, so much of it is just taking what's inside and putting outside in some sort of metaphor or some sort of way you can see or experience or manipulate or touch. And that's what you did with my boys in our sessions. And I was always dumbfounded, like your creativity, your playfulness, um, just the stuff we did in there is so cuckoo. It just was
So
like
cuckoo.
so cuckoo.
But we followed your children's leads.
Yes.
Like I said, we need to follow their lead, and there's a sweet spot of being direct
Yeah.
and pointing out, like, of course you feel sad about that,
Hmm.
right? Of course it's okay to have sadness, and then validating that and creating a sad bag or an anger bag. Or of course you have stress. Stress is a part of life. Let's create a stress bag because everybody needs one, and normalizing it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
even you having your own feeling snow globe, right? Parents too, the modeling, and I think I taught you the hand model of the brain, like you modeling that to your children learn what they live, and
Yeah.
they'll imitate you.
Yeah, I've shared it on here that the fist model with the, amygdala in the middle and, losing your top, blowing your top with the not having access to thinking and just, and I remember my son during the pandemic, he was 13 and he had his little hand model in front of me and his 4 fingers were tipped up a little bit. And he's like, how do you imagine I am when I'm like this? Like, just like about to pop up his hand. And it was just, I couldn't believe, just teaching him and teaching both of them the way that their brain works and their stress and what it means when we start to lose that regulation and awareness and all the games and tools and things that we've taught them, then they've actually been able to emotionally coach me sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mom, you need time for you for your breathing snow globe.
Yes. Yes.
Or
Yeah.
mom, you need to go take a time out. And it's
Right.
like, oh, and even my son and I go, oh, you're right. I need to
Yeah.
take.
I
And
remember
we need to take responsibility.
for sure and give
We
them.
want them to witness us taking responsibility. That's learning in and of itself. And I remember applying taking responsibility when I flipped my lid. And I said one day to my son, I said, what? Mommy just flipped her lid and she yelled, and I can see how that scared you. And I'm really sorry about that. And I'm going to work on that. Will you accept my apology? And my son went, no. And I sat there and I went, I'm just going to wait. And then literally 2 minutes later, he goes, I accept your apology. And then, for real, a week later, he had flipped his lid and he came to me and said, Mom, I'm really sorry that I yelled. I'm going to work on that. And I just went, oh my gosh, this works.
It
This
works. Yes.
works.
Hmm.
It works.
And what a gift to our families, like while we're raising kids for sure, but what a huge gift to them. Like my mission is similar, to yours, and like I want to heal the next generation in advance. This is my thought. That
Yeah,
if you
preventative.
yeah, if you have the tools in childhood, if we don't create trauma or we actually heal it in real time, right? Ruptures and pain and those kinds of things that happen are inevitable, like you talked about all those losses. And if you have someone witnessing and processing and giving you space and then giving you tools, because that stuff will come up again, then maybe we don't have to get to our 20s and sabotage a bunch and then have to go into repair and like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what would it look like if we had a whole generation of kids who came out of their childhood not unscathed, but well equipped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bruce Perry talks about this, that there are stress is a normative part of life. We will always have stress,
Yeah.
and we need to accept that. It's when it becomes, and there's 3 types of stress: positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress. And that's where we vacillate between the tolerable stress and toxic stress that we want to mitigate so that people aren't having major diagnoses and
Mhm.
flipping their lids and not able to function in their
Yeah.
lives.
Tell
Yeah.
us about pace, and then we're going to get everyone listening, get ready with your pens because we're going to give a bunch of tools.
Yeah,
And it's like really like practical strategies. But tell
that's
us
right.
about pace because I had forgotten and I haven't taught it on here and it's so wonderful. It's a great acronym. So
It is.
teach us.
Daniel Hughes created it. He's the father of attachment theory, other than Bowlby. He's inspired by John Bowlby. But he's really done so much research and written multiple books on the subject. And so PACE is an acronym to pace. So he teaches it pace your child. I teach it, pace yourself first, because we want to work on our own regulation first, then you pace your child. So P stands for P3, be patient, present, and playful. And this is whenever you see any behavior, any behavior. So, and you don't have to go in this order, PACE, but it's an acronym that's easy to remember. Next time you see behavior, you're like, okay, pace, what am I going to do? PAC or E, or C and E. So A is always convey nonverbally, I accept you. I
Mm.
love you. And you may not accept that they just threw their cell phone, right, and crossed the way and hit it on the wall, or you don't accept that they threw something and broke something special in your home or said cuss words at you. You don't accept that, right? There's limits to undesirable behavior, but we're always conveying, I love you. And that's how you would talk to them. I love it. I love you. I don't love it when you kick the dog. Okay. So you're putting the emphasis on the behavior, not the child. You're separating out the two. When you do that, things will shift right away, right away. So you're always conveying unconditionally, I love you. You just don't love their behavior. So separate that out. C is be curious. Always be curious. So what's happening? I'm noticing you're a little stressed out today. What's going on? And you can hear in my tone, when you're curious, it actually opens up the executive functioning of the brain of the other person. They feel safe because your tone is safe. If we're not aware of our tone, if our tone is judgmental or criticizing, it's not going to feel safe, and it's actually not going to be in your best interest because they're going to hide their motives, hide their thoughts and feelings from you because they feel criticized. I'll have parents go, okay, ask a question like you would. Okay, what's going on with you? There's a tone there. Now shift it to being curious. What's going on there, honey? And it's a shift and it's a practice. What's happening right now, honey? Because it's what you're not saying. I'm safe. We can talk about this. I'm regulated. We can do this together. I'm with you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to criticize. You see the difference?
Yes, for sure.
Tone is so crucial. This is all Dan Hughes's work. And then E is have empathy. Pace yourself. Go, you know what? I'm going to be playful with myself because this is hard. It is hard, right?
I'm just quick with the giggle, as are you. And I think it has made parenting a lot more pleasant for me because I don't tend to take things that seriously, like almost to a fault.
And that's a reflection of you and the work you've done on yourself.
Yes, because wasn't always this way because I felt hyper vigilant because I've talked in the podcast about my own trauma and I've 9 is my ACE score. It's insane. So I had to figure out a way to be in the world that wasn't so on guard, mostly because I was raising a kid who was on guard.
Yes, yes.
And so we were just like ninja arms up, ready to fight each other. And it wasn't going to work. I had to disarm.
That's right. And playfulness actually releases dopamine, feel good hormone. So it actually will help you stay regulated. You're also reading your child's nonverbal cues. So if they're like looking at you like, why are you laughing at me? You're going to stop being playful.
Yeah, true.
And the nonverbal cues, and this is Dan Siegel's work, the 7 nonverbal cues. Always pay attention to your child's facial expressions, the way they're looking at you, their tone of voice, their gestures, their posture, and their timing and intensity of responding to you. Because that will help you know the dance of attachment. Sometimes we have to move real slow here when things are getting activated. It's you slowing down and being aware of your nonverbal cues. It's like it's slow-mo a lot. There's intense emotions. It's slow-mo time.
Well, that's the goal. One of the things we
Mama
say all the
time.
time on here is misbehavior is not an emergency because the brain will trick you to think that you have to respond. We go fix it, change it, stop it, sell it. It's an intensity, and when you get regulated, it's almost like you are slowing down time. Like you're in the matrix. Like you're those bullets. You're like, woo! It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. You're in the
Mhm.
matrix completely. That's what it should feel like. So pace is pace yourself first, go, wow. So once you recognize I'm starting to get reactive here, this is triggering my stuff. Okay, what do I want to do with me first? Let's be curious. It's hard. This is hard for you, and you're doing it. Be accepting of yourself. You're doing the best that you can. Have empathy. Then pace your child and go, okay, I'm going to convey I love you. I
Hmm.
don't love it that you just threw your cell phone and now it's broken, honey.
Hmm.
And be aware of your tone. I mean, it's
It's not,
mastering this.
yeah, it is mastering. It's definitely, I think looking at your child's crestfallen face can be great as a tool to be like, I'm not maybe showing up the way that I think I am. Like I'm more aggressive than I want to be. I'm more,
You're
you know,
aware of your tone of voice.
yeah.
Wow, I'm pushing them away with my tone. I need to take it back. The thermostat enough.
I think about acceptance a lot with in this pace because we all love our kids. And I think that our kids know that. And I remember Lincoln, one of the main things that made me get help was I was putting him to bed. He was 4. And I said, honey, another hard day, just the two of us. He's like my best friend now. It's so funny. But we were just, I just could not, I didn't know what to do with him. ADHD, 4-year-old boy, trauma. I mean, just so much going on.
Right.
And I said, honey, I'm so sorry. You know, I love you. It's at bedtime. And he said, I know you love me. I just don't think you like me very much.
I remember that. That's the nonverbal communication. He wasn't picking up from you.
Yeah.
I could imagine you were probably stressed out. He saw it in your
And
nonverbal
also really not liking his behavior, but not able to separate.
and
Y-
getting frustrated.
Yeah. And I had conflated his behavior with him. I was so stuck in fear and so afraid. I was like, he is going to be a psychopathic killer. Like I convinced myself
Oh no.
because he was like somewhat naughty. I mean, I was also in an extreme trauma response myself. So that's why we needed help. That's why we came to
That's
you.
what's up.
I needed someone to say, your child is not your behavior. In
Mhm.
order for me to start to separate myself, separate my thoughts about him.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you because parents take their children's behavior personally.
Yes. It's
And
a reflection of me. It's because of
totally,
me. Yes.
that's right. And one of my phrases is, it's not a rejection of you, their anger. It's a reflection of what they're going through. Separate that out, piece that out. And that actually, that phrase, because I had a secondary rejection, right? I'm initially with my birth family. So I had to keep telling myself, this is not a rejection of you. This is a reflection of his unresolved trauma, grief, and loss of losing you and your brother and your mother.
So
So
beautiful. It's something that we can all really take to the bank, right? Like really learning how to take all the behavior that we experience from others. And so, especially, I mean, I coach a lot of people, teens, and boy, do parents feel like everything is a rejection, take very personally their behavior.
that's why I wanted to share my shame witch technique. So we've
Yes,
talked about pace. So I do want to say this book parents can use too, because there's a lot of handouts. You can print things out. Very easy. You don't have to be a therapist to do these interventions. Do it on yourself first. Pace yourself first and go, okay, yeah, I can totally do this. I can teach this to my child, and I'm going to model that I'm going to do this too. So, with the rejection piece, I do want to point out that our brains, and we will perceive anger or criticizing or judgment as a rejection. Our brains just automatically perceive that you don't like me when someone's angry with you. So, we want to understand that and accept that, as you're saying. Accept that anger feels like abandonment, especially for kids who've experienced trauma, because they take a lot of things personally. So
kids
they'll,
in general do, and then kids with trauma especially do.
uh,
Yes.
they have
Hmm.
so much shame. So the shame witch technique also came from Daniel Hughes. In one of his books, he was talking about shame, and I really sat with it. And I had so much shame as a kid, and I needed somebody to separate out me from my shame. And so I said, what if I had like a sandwich? Because I'm trying to think of the way I create is I just sit with myself and I go, how do I explain this to a kid concretely? I'm
Yep.
always thinking in that way. Because also when we're dealing with trauma and flipping our lids, our brain doesn't have rational concepts. So we want to create something complex into something concrete, which is what I strive to do. And I go, what metaphor could I use separating out? And I'll just sit there and go, what's something you separate out? This is how I create. And I go, okay, a sandwich. So then I said, I'm going to create something called the shamewich. So the bread on the bottom. So this is, you're teaching this not only to your child, but again, you're doing it to yourself.
Mhm.
The bread on the bottom is you're a good person. You're pulling out all the good stuff. You're a good person. You're doing the best that you
I
can
love
for.
in the book you wrote that it's your best friend inner voice.
Yes.
Yes, that the bread is the voice that is so loving, so kind, so encouraging. And what does your best friend say about you?
Right, because a lot of the work that we're understanding in trauma is building that self-compassion. So, what would your best friend say to you
Yeah.
in this situation? So, I thought, oh, let's bridge that too to get people to start having compassion. When you make a mistake, you're not the mistake. The mistake is the mistake. And we're going to have objectivity and we're going to learn about that. And your self esteem can still be intact. You can still feel good about yourself because a lot of the kids I worked with, they would make a mistake. I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid. There's something wrong with me. They would go all the way to that place, negative talk. So the bread on the bottom is your best friend in her voice. You're a good person. You're doing the best that you can. It's okay to make mistakes. Then whatever your favorite sandwich is, turkey, lettuce, pickle, tomato, you're going to put all the emphasis on all the things you're doing wrong or the mistakes you're making, and you're going to separate that out. And that turkey, that math problem is what I'm going to work on. That math problem makes me feel stupid, but it's the math problem that's hard. That's really hard. And I'm figuring that out. And then the bread on top is you're doing the best that you can.
Hmm.
So we're sandwiching the shame of not being able to accomplish something, do something with objectivity, with compassion, with a growth mindset. You haven't learned it yet. You're still, I'm still learning things. There's a lot I haven't learned yet. I'm still figuring things out.
Same.
Okay, so the shame which I use on myself a lot, I go, you're doing the best that you can. This is what you're going to figure out. You're going to figure out this problem. Don't put it on yourself
So
that you're
the middle, the pieces of the sandwich are like the circumstance or the situation or the challenge
a more
or some of
the
those negative thoughts you
negative.
have about yourself. Hmm.
That's right. All the negative inner voice, all have an inner critic. We all do. And it's piecing that out. And really, when you do these interventions, the intensity, frequency, and duration of those symptoms will lessen. You're going
Hmm.
to find, wow, I just did the shame witch and I actually feel really good.
Yeah.
You just start, wow, I actually feel good about myself, that I'm actually making mistakes and I can still feel good.
Because
That's
there
right.
are things that we aren't good at. There are things that we make mistakes and shame, right? Like Brene Brown is like, that's when you think that you are a mistake, and guilt is like, I made a mistake, kind of separating that. And I think it's the same, it's all of that combined. Like, I'm not the hard thing, I'm not my negative thoughts. That's not actually who I am. And I did a big series on internal family systems a couple months ago. And we have learned a lot about self led energy and self energy and like your core self. So
Mhm.
anyone who listens regularly will kind of like, okay, the bread parts are the your core, like
That's right.
yourself, your parts that your part free part, right? Yeah.
You're applying this shameless to yourself. Like if there's something you've done as a parent that you feel ashamed about, piece it out for yourself. So, okay, you're going to figure that out. You're learning. So then I had this kid, every time he would do homework, he'd go, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm just terrible. And the parent would come to me and say, I keep telling him he's not stupid. And so I said, okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at that. Because when we try to turn off behavior, if I tell you, and this is mindfulness, if I tell you right now, don't think about a white bear, go. Don't think about a white, don't do this, don't do that, don't, what are you doing? It's making it bigger. And when I learned that concept, I was like, wait a second, we actually have to acknowledge that part, to lessen the intensity of that part. So this little boy, I said, told the parent, next time he says it's stupid, you validate. I see there's a part of you that believes you're stupid. Oh, that's so hard. That leaning into the discomfort because he didn't want his kid to feel stupid, but he feels stupid.
That's what the child is communicating. So parents do this all the time. They are kind of almost argue like the child's thought, trying to like dislodge it, and it's with the best intention, but it's ineffective. And it's like acknowledging the thought, acknowledging the feeling.
And that white bear concept, if just really take that in because it will help you go, oh, I can't turn this off. And that's trauma, putting on the trauma lens. It's not that they won't behave, they can't behave because they're 3, 4. And we're always, again, projecting adult characteristics on kids. They should behave. They can't behave like other kids their age. They're still learning.
Mm-hmm,
We're all
mm-hmm.
learning. The shame which then apply it to your child. So when you see your child, I see you. You're doing the best that you can. This is really hard and you're doing it. And the math. So take the negative, whatever they're saying, and the math is stupid. Help them bridge it and put it on whatever that negative critical voice is, put it on the behavior, the action that they took, or the poor choice that they made. That's the problem. Going and thinking you can just steal a pack of gum. That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay, but stealing is not okay. And there's one more little concept is storytelling. And in that moment when you're doing the shame, which you go, you know what, I'm gonna tell you a little story. When I was little, this happened and I learned too, like, you know what, I thought that you could steal things and get away with it, but we can't because you can have a negative consequence for that. And it's just, and that's discipline. You're just teaching. But we're not blaming and we're not shaming.
I think that's a good metaphor in our heads to remember, just like, am I shame witching, right? I mean, really, right? It's like, can I dislodge some of these negative thoughts? Because there are kids do have negative thoughts and they do have negative behaviors. They have all of that. And if we come alongside and we don't have the parts of the bread that say, you're not your behavior, you are this, you are good, you are kind, you are loving, you are, lovable, all those things, then they're not going to know. They can't separate it because that's a very abstract concept, actually. It's metacognition. It's very difficult to separate yourself from your behavior. And so but we can teach kids how to do that. And
Right.
that's
In
how,
this very concrete way. So
yeah.
I'll even have cut out circles of buns, cut out some lettuce, pickled tomato, turkey, and we write on it. What are some things you can say to yourself next time when you're feeling really down on yourself? What's your best friend inner voice can say to you so that they have it? And that's again the externalizing. They have something outside of themselves they can look at. It's a visual reminder of their mental health, right? And I'm creating toolboxes, toolkits for kids now. I just get a little pop-up box, and every intervention we do in therapy goes in their mental health toolbox. They have it at home because kids can't hold it all in their heads. There's so
Mhm.
much going on up there. They have the visual, oh, I got my sad bag, I got my anger bag, I got my stress bag. It's right there.
Yeah, let's talk about the bags because I love it. I have like a calm down basket that I teach, right? Or like a calm basket. I used to call it a feelings basket.
You're very creative too. I've
Yes, but a lot of them are like ideas from you. Things that I've put in it. But it is like this concept of going to something and working through an emotion or manipulating or showing or moving your body. And so talk about the stress bag, the anger bag, the sad bag. And these are all like things that you've trademarked. Like this is a core part of your work that's so valuable. So
Yes.
share it
And it
with us.
really helped me understand mental health and how to help children shrink the big feelings and have the word is containment.
Mm.
Feeling, there's no structure to feelings. When you it just you vomit, right? It's just really big and there's no limit to it. So what the stress bag does is it has a place and a space and a limit to it. It all goes here.
Mm.
And so we definitely want, whether it's a stress bag, anger bag, or sad bag, to be visual in the child's room.
Okay.
Literally, it says the stress bag on it. So the stress bag, it's you're modeling. So you have a bag with handles, index cards, because we're going to have stress busters that we write down, and a variety of stress relief tools. And, that could be a stress ball, bubble wrap I like to use because I'll explain to kids, like, think about all the cells in your body. Well, cortisol is a stress cell, right? And when we're twisting the bubble wrap, I want you to think of all the stress that you're holding in your body and popping it one by one. And I'll have kids name it to tame it, like, tell me something you're stressed about, and then
Like
release that with
math and like my brother and
another.
mom's work trip, whatever.
That's
Yes.
right. You're helping them name it to tame it. You're giving voice to it. You're giving a releasing to it. And with kids who have trauma, you're discharging trauma. And it's really important because trauma gets stored in the body. So Play-Doh, bubbles, drawing paper. I've even been adding a stress tube, those poster tubes, so they can another form of containment. They can yell in the tube, I'm stressed about this. And it gets stuck in the tube, and then they can put the end on.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right. Just little ways trap the stress. Really ratty. Right. It's like because we want it out of us, comfortable. So that's the stress bag. And basically you're having all of these items out. If you have a child who's resistant, I tell parents, have your own stress bag too and go, you know what? Mom needs one too. So we're both going to do it. And let's have fun making it. Let's choose and have all the items out, and you each get to choose. Okay. And then you practice together. And then you find a place in their room that you're going to put it so they know where it is. And then a few times a week, not not when they're stressed. You can use it when they're stressed if they're able to, but we know that there's stress inside our body. So we're going to practice releasing our stress. And
That's a good point. Yeah. I do recommend that. Like you have to practice with this stuff. Like,
yeah,
when
you
you're
have
not
to,
activated, because the idea is like, okay, that's why I always found breathing was hard for me to say, okay, breathe, deep breaths. Because I felt like my kids didn't really need to inhale. I mean, I know it's helpful, but they almost need to like exhale. So jump or bounce or, push things out
that's
and in the moment. But then if we practice breathing at other times and just noticing how good that felt in our body and our nervous system.
yeah, that's how when we're stressed and we flipped our lid, we're not receptive to learning.
No, for sure. You need to have like something you have your go-tos.
That's right. So the stress bag, you're showing them that there are tools. We know there's stress in there. We all have it. And we're practicing because as we release the stress when we're not stressed, it's actually lessening the stress because now we're giving voice to it because we know this is something we could be anticipating we're stressed about, something that happened in the past that still needs to be processed. So it's processing the past and the future in the present.
Yeah.
The anger bag, the same thing. If you have a child who has a lot of anger, anger is the easiest emotion to have. It is. It protects us from feeling grief, sadness, shame. Then you're going to start with an anger bag and go, wow, we have a lot of anger in our family, and that's okay because anger is a part of life, right? Normalizing it, helping them understand that this is okay. And we're going to make an anger bag today and have fun with this
Hmm.
and see the playfulness. You're even pacing while you're doing this
Yeah. Right.
and you're showing them and modeling, mom has anger sometimes, so I'm going to make myself an anger bag too. So here's all the items we get to choose, make it fun. Then we'll each take an item out of our bag and talk about, I feel mad when, blah, blah, blah. And this is, I want to put it out in the Play-Doh. And this
Yeah.
is what I, and so with the stress buster cards, they can write on there what they can do with their
Yeah.
stress.
Let's share a couple of those because I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like when I was like, I want to highlight a few strategies from the book. Then I
Yes,
kept going, page 12, page 48, page 71, page 20, page 270. I mean, there's
right,
so
right. Because
much good stuff. Yeah.
dress bag and you'll see like because not everything's going to work for everybody
Mm-mm.
and we want a variety so we get to choose our preferences. So like in the stress bag, stress buster, stretch my body like a cat. Stretching is good for relieving stress. Fall on my bed backward 5 times. Kids like stuff like that. Pretend I'm a statue in a museum. Stand on my tippy toes, walk around, smile really big in the mirror. Take 5 big, deep belly breaths, tighten my body and release it. Go up to someone in my house and make a funny face. Uh, and then I have a
Oh,
section
cool.
on body up moves. because a lot of stress gets trapped in the body. And that's another intervention that you could actually print this out, cut it out, and these are 12 cards that could be put in the stress bag.
Yeah, and let's just teach a few. I've actually, since reading your book, been recommending this a lot in my private practice. But like 5 4 3 2 1 technique, and someone mentioned it a couple weeks ago on the podcast, another guest, and then we didn't really teach it.
Yep.
So I want to just make sure we teach it. Yeah.
It's a technique that helps kids get out of dissociation. If you see them kind of spacing out, it gets them in touch with their senses.
Or anxiety, I think too. Like you get really
Anxiety,
like almost like a panic, or you're yeah outside your body. Yep.
their
Mhm.
brain gets hijacked and you kind of see them zoning out and they're not connected and they're kind of levitating. And you're like, whoa, I just lost him. Okay, we're going to do the 5 4 3 2 1. Name 5 things you can see and make it fun. 5 things you can see right now. Up, I see a red dot. I see a painting. I see a bird. 4 things you can touch. What are 4 things you can touch right now? 3 things you can hear and stay patient. And it's actually going to help them wind down as you
Yeah.
do this. And 2 things you can smell and 1 thing you can taste.
Mhm.
And that's so simple.
And it gets tricky when you get to taste. People are like, "What?" You could just say, "Just the moisture in your mouth." Like
Yeah,
it
taste the
doesn't.
lemon.
I don't taste anything. Okay, well that's something.
Yes, exactly.
We don't have to make it that so complicated.
Exactly.
I don't smell anything. Well, that's your first smell. The first smell is nothing. Can you smell another thing? Because they don't. They're just just be silly.
That's right. And grounding
Mhm.
also. So you imagine your belly button is connected by a cord to the middle of this planet. And it's a cord that cannot be broken. And it could be made of titanium, copper, whatever you imagine. It could even be an umbilical cord. Like that's your connection. And it's so strong and so powerful. And I want you to feel it like a suction cup. And what you start feeling is this gravitational pull, and you feel your feet more grounded in the earth. And then if you ask someone to give you a little push, you actually feel this inner strength. And I call it the inner strength cord in your body. And I'll teach this to kids, teens, and adults. Like whenever you're experiencing something that feels out of control and your limbs feel like they're swaying, ground yourself like roots in a tree. Do the grounding cord. You don't have to do anything but first work on your own regulation. And then you're going to keep your lid on. You're going to be more able to stay attuned and problem solve because when you flip your lid,
No more thinking.
your IQ actually lowers. It
Yep.
does.
Yeah.
And if you get angry, your IQ lowers too. So you're
Mhm.
you're gonna mess up. You're not gonna stay attuned. And it's not even you may say the wrong thing, but if your tone is right, you're therapeutic. You
Yeah.
may go, honey, I know we're having, I don't know, but it's your tone
Yeah.
that's soothing and comforting. So grounding, affirmation. So I really like tapping in.
Yeah.
Tapping in, and it's a butterfly hug. You both put your hands up, you cross your arms, you put your hands on your palms on your shoulders. And bilateral stimulation is bilaterally tapping in alternating shoulders with a nice steady tone of tapping. This actually integrates the brain and the body, and it actually calms the nervous system. Just tapping.
It feels so good. I've been doing it all week. And I was thinking about those times a day, like say before they get in the car, you just stand at the car, the door, and you go, "Okay, we got to tap in before you can get in," and doing that. Just these like before school or like before homework time, maybe even before bedtime. Bringing some of these into your regular practice so that you can anticipate those moments when your kids are going to dysregulate, pre-regulate, something I've been talking about a lot lately, this word I made up,
Oh, I
but
love that.
pre-regulate everybody so that when you then go into the environment, the nervous system's already kind of at a baseline.
I hear the title of your new book.
Pre-regulate. Yeah.
Yes, and so it makes me, and share with you what we did with Sawyer. I don't know if you remember. I taught you and him tapping in because he was having, if I may say, some nightmares.
Yeah.
And I remember it clearly, the bad guy in the
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman movie. And I said, this is a perfect opportunity. to help Sawyer feel a sense of security, stability, and feel protected in his body by internalizing with bilateral stimulation a protective figure outside of himself who's hypervigilant, who's watching out for danger, so that he can rest and sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did. We helped him tap in a protective figure. And I remember he created sharks around his bed.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And oh yeah, I remember with some kids, I'm like, wow, I see this really, it just sticks with me. Wow, this really works. This is an intervention that I'm going to use with
Yeah,
my,
because yeah, if you're like surrounded by sharks, you're that aren't attacking you, you're pretty
no,
protected.
they're your BFFs.
Yeah. They're gonna like make sure you have, yeah. He was definitely also a stuffed animal guy, like a whole army of them around him. Yes.
And that gave him a sense of security, a
Hmm. Hmm.
source of relief.
Yep.
So he could calm his nervous system and sleep. Tapping in affirmations too. So there is in the book tapping in your loving figure, protective figure, tapping in affirmations. I am strong. I like you messages too, like you can do this, because I feel like it kind of downloads even deeper.
Well, it's actually, if you think about IFS, it's self energy talking to you, talking to that part. So there is something about, I do a lot of like Darlynn. Like like I talk I don't know who's saying my name, but it's my deeper self who's coaching me. So yeah, we all have kind of these different parts of us that can talk to each other. Yeah.
And don't be afraid of that, and don't think it's psychobabble.
No.
It's part of your mental health.
Yeah.
It matters. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do this. So,
And
you
I
know,
love it teaching our kids that
that's
affirmations are huge. And then like heart opener, I think that's really fun. Can you share that
oh
one?
yes, stand in the sunlight because sun is really important. Vitamin D, it impacts depression or mood states. So standing in the sun, put your hands over your heart, take a few deep breaths in, pour in the warm, imagine pouring in the warm, bright light into your heart and to the rest of your body. It's a visualization. Like imagine the streams of the sunlight going into your heart, into your body and giving you a sense of comfort, working on regulating the body and the nervous system.
Yeah.
And you may try this with your child and go, okay, that actually worked because she's doing it again. Mom, I want to do the heart
Yeah.
opener. Okay,
Hmm.
let's do it.
Hmm.
Right. And if your child says that, you want to be there and you want to respond, even though you have 10 other things to do, go, you know what? This is mental health and I need to do it. And it's in my best interest and it's in her best interest. And I'm going to do this with her.
I was thinking about all like listeners that are like about to go into winter. They're like, "What are you talking about the sun?" And I was just thinking, sometimes we can just imagine the sun. We can imagine, pretend the lamp above you is that. Like I think creativity. Not everybody thinks this way, but if you kind of have the concept of what can I bring into my child's body that will feel
Soothing,
soothing. Yes, exactly. It's like
comforting.
when you have babies and you sway them and you shush them and you rock them, there's an intuitiveness to that when you hold a baby. But as they get older, you're like, I don't know what the baby version of this soothing is. And that's what these are.
Yes, and you can use pace on any age.
Hmm.
Don't limit it to younger kids. Pace with your teenagers too.
Yeah. Yes. Being
Yeah,
present, the P's, patient, present, playful, going into that acceptance, being curious, and then having the empathy. I wanted to say about curiosity and the tone. So I hear parents like, "Why are you acting like this?"
there you
It's
go.
one of my favorite things, and I say, "Let's make it not rhetorical. Like, let's actually try to answer it, And once you kind of go, "Why are you acting like this?" You end up in a different tone. If you just get a teeny bit curious, because you already are. You're like, what the hell's going on? You could be like, what is going on?
That's
Just
right.
look for the answer. Hmm.
Right. Why can feel critical to children because
Yes,
they often don't know why.
they don't know.
That's why they're acting out.
Correct.
They don't know why.
No, they need us to
So
help them understand themselves. They're external to their internal. Like I want them to be integrated within themselves. So my model's calm, connect, limit, set, correct. And whenever I think about connection, the assumption is that I'm connecting to my kid. And that's wonderful. But really, I don't think of it that way. I really think empathy, compassion is how can I help my child make sense of themselves so that they can then have built just a massive amount of awareness of why they act the way they act and what to do about it.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why I teach psychoeducation to children, young as 7, 6. Fan the flames, the 5 Fs of how we protect ourselves when we're stressed out or overwhelmed. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop.
Mhm.
And I have a nice image in the book with animals, helping kids understand how animals fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop. And that's the hand model of the brain. We all have an animal part.
Yes, it's so
And then
good.
once kids get it, they go, oh, I'm acting out for my animal part right now, and I need to take a break.
Yeah.
I need to
Go to my
go.
stress bag, go to my anger bag. I need to do one of my body up moves. Like it's funny because I want kids to go to therapy if they need to, for sure.
Of course.
And I also think there's not enough trained professionals to do this much social and emotional education for kids. And we can't keep putting it in the classroom either. And so, where are kids going to get it? Well, in the home. So, spending $30 or however much this book
Exactly.
is like one session with either of us, was going to cost so much more than that. And don't, like you said, do it on yourself first.
Exactly.
Try them out. Just see how they feel.
Exactly. It's fun, actually. You're going to go, wow, I needed this as a kid. Now you're going to give it to yourself.
Hmm.
And that's the gift. And once you can do that for yourself, you're going to feel better and you're going to do better.
Yeah.
And you are.
Yeah, you are. So I've said this to you already, but I cannot believe this book is written and it exists in the world with all these if you guys could see the way it's written, it's so simple. Each one is like 1 or 2 pages. The most basic information you need. You don't understand all of why or have a whole therapeutic background.
Mhm.
It's just stuff to help parents
That's right.
and caregivers and professionals
That's right.
get this stuff externalized.
And that's why I
And
wrote it. I mean,
yeah, no, it's amazing. 160, and I think several of them are more than one in one. Yeah, there's like in the stress bag there's 10 ideas, and so
exactly.
it's just the most incredible toolbox for sure.
Thank
And
you so
I'm
much.
so glad to have everyone meet you because I have talked about Jeanette for a long time on the podcast, and to anyone who knows anything about me and our story. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just grateful that you did the work that you did and that you're here and
And
that
you
I got
too,
to know
Darlynn.
you.
You're very inspiring. And having a Calm Mama podcast, you're helping. I know you're helping and impacting so many mothers today. And they so need you. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're the best.
We're making a difference.
We are. We're making a difference. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that again at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.